Welcome to the ThunderCast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hugnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod, and you can listen to the ThunderCast anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast. We are literally everywhere, and of course, you can watch us on the ThunderCast YouTube channel. While you're there, we sure would appreciate it if whatever outlet you're listening or watching us on, that you would subscribe on YouTube, share the links to the show with your friends and fellow herd fans, so we can continue to grow the listener base and reach as many herd fans as we possibly can. We are back in action this week. The transfer portal is in full swing, and we thought it would be a really good idea to talk about the first week of the transfer portal, as it were, the ins and the outs, and kind of all that is in between, and maybe some of the things that Russ and I expect to see. Not that we have any really insider knowledge, but just from like general roster moves based on what is left and what we have committed. So we're going to get into that today, because we know you guys want to stay abreast on what's going on with herd football. But Russ needs you to do me a favor, and let's get this whole thing kicked off with a word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC.
If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com. Right
out of the gate, the biggest addition to the transfer portal was my sweet killer mustache. It got an offer it could not refuse from the mustache trimmer, and it joined the roster in the sink and then ultimately to the trash can. So we bid a fond adieu. We appreciate the mustache for all that it did to serve us this past season, but it's time for a new era on the Hugnall face. So we'll see what the facial hair looks like next week.
Yeah, and you know me, dead serious all the time, so I'm not going to comment about it at all.
Hey, I know. I appreciate that. I know this is a sad day in ThunderCast history. I know our buddy Eric Boggs up there at the Ohio podcast is going to be sad if this happens across his feed, because he was very complimentary of the mustache back in the spring. But hey, she is gone. Let's talk about the transfer portal, because that's what everybody really cares about right now. It's been going on for about a week, a little over a week. You know, we gave everybody the dates and how it pertained to the herd a little over a week ago. New Year's Day, we recorded that show. We published it on the 2nd, which was the day the transfer portal opened. So now we're recording now the 10th, the evening of the 10th. So you've had about 9 days of transfer portal action, and we have a little under a week left of transfer portal action. And Marshall has seen their fair share, both in and out. So let's talk about that. Where would you like to begin, or do you have an opening statement? Like, how do you want to do it?
Yeah, let's do a 10-second refresh.
Okay.
January 2nd through January 16th is the portal in. People can enter during that time. They can enter later than that time if they're a grad student, or if their head coach happens to leave at this point. I doubt that happens at this point in the offseason. The Marshall last day ad drop is this Friday, the 16th. Just a coincidence that it's there. So most of the players would want to join before then if they want to take part in spring practice and all that. If not, people can still join up to, and probably will, all throughout the summer. They will just be here for fall practice. That's it.
That's right. That's the biggest key you have to make the differentiation about, is that to enter the portal, it's from the 2nd through the 16th. You do not have to commit during that same window. However, as it relates to Marshall, you do need to commit on the 16th or before in order to take part in spring ball. So that's the date that herd fans really want to pay attention to. We really want to see as many players that are going to commit to the herd do so before January 16th. Now, we've had a lot of action, some out and some in I think I would like to start with the out because there have been some things that have changed as far as what we thought we knew. We had guys that made some announcements and said, "Hey, I'm back. I'm staying. I'm coming back." And then a couple of those guys hit the transfer portal anyway. And then we have heard some really large contributing names that have hit the portal that never made an announcement about, "I'm coming back." We just thought they might be here. So on the 2nd, when the portal opened, we had a lot of defense. Well, not just that day, but since the portal opened on the 2nd, we've had a lot of defense hit the portal. And it started with reserve offensive lineman Henry Harden, then defensive lineman Naquan Crowder, quarterback Ja'Kai Long hit the portal on the 3rd. On the 5th, Jabril Al-Amin, who had previously said he was coming back, decided to enter the portal. On the 7th, we lost a couple of defensive linemen to the portal. Legacy player Jamal Weiss Jr. hit the portal. Sid Kaba hit the portal. Then on the 8th, it was Specialist Day, and it stung, man. It stung really bad because kicker Lorcan Quinn had decided to enter the transfer portal, and punter Nathan Totten. And then just yesterday, as we record again on the 10th, on the 9th, defensive back Daryl Sweeting, who also had previously announced that he was coming back, has hit the portal. So all in all, what I see is 3 total players that said they were coming back have hit the portal. But as far as contributors go, we're getting up there around that 8, 9, 10 number at this point. What are your thoughts? I know you don't have anything negative to say, but based on what we thought we knew and what we know now, what are your thoughts on how the roster stacks up as far as returning players?
So the specialists, sadly, were kind of expected by me. I was hopeful that they would stay, but I kind of figured, with it's a game today, and it wasn't a big surprise on that day that both hit. I was actually expecting that for several days. Just naming, going back over Paul Hudson III, Jabril Al-Amin, and Daryl Sweeting, those were the 3. They're all from defense. They were all starters as far as at least certain packages that were on the field. 3 easily that you could say are contributors or whatever. So they said they were coming back. They entered the portal. That one hurts, not emotionally or mentally or anything like that. It just hurts from an X's and O's standpoint, because at one point we were expecting those 3 to be here. And now, especially with Sweeting, that's a week into the portal process that now you have to go out and replace that position that you might have expected that you were going to have. So that's kind of where I'm at here on everything that happened this week.
Yeah, and I want to piggyback off of that. Defensive back, I think by and large, every Herd fan thinks, man, we really needed a turnaround in that whole room, because we saw how the season went. I mean, that was the Achilles heel of this entire defense, was the chunk play and the play of the secondary by and large was the most weak spot of the 3 levels of defense. And now you're losing Boogie Trotter to eligibility exhaustion, and he's going to go to the portal. You're losing the draft. JD McKnight announced just the other day, I don't know if you saw this, that he was going to go to making himself eligible for the draft as well. Now you lose Sweeting, and Marvay Myers was already exhausting eligibility. So you're going to have a really, really revamped defensive back room. And you brought in a couple of coaches, veteran coaches, to do that. You bring in one to coach corners and one to coach safeties. So you're really going to make an emphasis about that, So they're gonna have to hit the portal pretty hard to replace that entire room. Mostly, you're not losing everybody, but there's some youngsters on the roster that kind of sat out last year that we're probably going to see some play this year. Guys that most Herd fans have probably forgotten about. But come spring ball, we will be familiarizing you with those folks again. And when we do position group breakdowns, when we know more about the roster, we're going to be doing, of course, big-time familiarizations with all of those position groups. But I think it hurts because we had a big nucleus of players that we thought were coming back. And, you had them at all 3 levels, and now that's starters and heavy contributors at all 3 levels that you're going to have to replace, on top of having to replace everybody else that just lost or exhausted eligibility. It's no small task, right? This is a very tall task to go find people that you feel like upgrade from where you were a year ago. And you got to have a lot of faith in Tony Gibson and these guys, because they went out and found guys like Paul Hudson III, and he was a super impactful player for the Herd last year. So we don't have very much information on all these guys as far as where they've committed, like new schools. Some we do, some are just not out there, and maybe they just haven't committed yet or whatever. But of I don't know, this looks like pretty close to 20 people on my list here. I didn't do a quick count, but I can.
I've got it. 12, 13, 14.
20. I got 20.
I got 20 as well.
Okay, so of the 20 guys, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players, 7 players that we know where they have committed to. Some of them, I think, are going to make Herd fans go, man, something's up. And not because of who it is, but how quickly the announcement of entering the portal and then committed to happened, So people are going to go, that's tampering, right? But
you know what, man, with the NCAA right now, I mean, we're basically international waters. They don't enforce anything. They feel like they have no power. They probably don't have any power. And if you went to them and said, here are timestamps of a phone that I have that shows X tampering with Y, they'd be like, oh, well.
What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And they know it.
Yeah. We just want to take 50% of the money, man.
Yeah, pretty much. So here, I'll just give you who we know based on what we've seen online of where they're committed. Actually, you have the list there. Did you write it down?
I've got it in my head.
Okay.
Michael Allen went to ECU. Randy Young, who again was in the portal from April. He didn't have to reapply to the portal, but he never went anywhere. He was still here in school. So he went to Gardner Webb, I think you said. I did not see that as I was doing other things. You said that right before, so that must have happened today. Let's see. Naquan Crowder went to Minnesota. Jabril Alameen went to Kansas.
Yeah.
And Jamal Weiss went to Baylor. Yeah. And Nathan Totten went to Virginia Tech. And you just told me about this too. Again, I've been busy with other things. But Daryl Sweeting went to UAB.
Yeah, I'm going to say reportedly, because I didn't see that on social media. I saw that in a group chat with some of our buddies, and I don't know why they would just randomly pick UAB. So I'm just going to say that they saw that somewhere and we're just sharing it amongst our friends. So there you go. There's still 16 or so guys that need to make an announcement, or, even if Herd fans even care where they went to. But, it's just food for thought. I know folks often get tied up in, well, where did they go to? Do I perceive that as a down, as a move down, or a step up? And, so food for thought. So let's talk about the portal in, because that's really what matters. These guys that are gone are gone. They're not going to be suiting up for the Herd this year. They're going to do nothing to help us contribute to wins or losses. These are the guys that we are recruiting out of the portal are the ones that are going to matter in 2026 as far as the Herd goes. So it's been a pretty productive week. The Herd was on a roll, not necessarily out of the gate. It was a couple of days before they got their first commitment, but after they got that first one, it was for several days in a row, including today. Maybe it's not out there, but we're hearing rumors that they secured a couple of commitments today, and those guys
just waiting on the confirmation. So that's how we do it at the ThunderCast.
Yeah. So let me be clear about that. We don't just post rumor. We wait until either the player or Herd Football or a player's agent or somebody posts that they have committed to Marshall. And that's just how we prefer to do it. So we don't worry about being first. We just, want to be as right as we can be. So we mentioned way back in December 23rd that we got a commitment from an offensive lineman, center Logan Greer from the University of California, Pennsylvania, which is where offensive line coach
Bob McLean.
That's where he was before he came to the Herd. And of course, that was not Division I. Their portal was open before that. That's why he was able to commit So he was the first one off the board. But since the portal opened on the 2nd, Marshall has received 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, with the potential of 2 more today or yesterday. So potentially up to 13 out of the portal. And we're going to talk about those guys. First one to commit to the herd was an offensive line transfer from West Virginia University, Xavier Bowsley. He's actually an in-state kid from Dunbar, went to South Charleston High School. So that's pretty cool. You know, we all love that 304 tie. Some of these guys had, of course, visited as soon as the portal opened and then committed almost immediately or the day after. So that tells me that if we can get them on campus, there's a good chance that we can keep them on campus. So that's pretty cool. Also bolstering that offensive line from a couple of guys that hit the portal to help build around Jalen Slappy, to help build around some of these other pieces that are going to be here. And of course, as long as CDRW is behind center, we need the best offensive line that we can get. That guy subjected himself to enough abuse as it is without having a porous offensive line. Russ, do you have? I've been talking a lot. Let's run down and you read for a little bit so I can just have some reaction.
Yeah, you mentioned Greer and Bowsley, and the next day on the 5th, wide receiver Owen Sweeney comes to us from VMI. Good size, but also great production. They had 2 really good, almost identical wide receivers, both freshmen, and both hit the portal from VMI. So they were basically their entire offense from there. But Sweeney was the big home run guy. He had a lot of 2 different 75-yard touchdowns, 52-yard touchdown, chunk play. A lot of it was yards after catch. It wasn't just over the top burning people, but he could do that as well. Again, like his size at 6'4", 200, 210, somewhere around there. Jaquez Keys. This is an Ironton kid. He ended up committing. This is a running back / linebacker at Ironton, and you know the football history there. He ended up committing to Wake Forest out of high school, but ended up at Kentucky instead. And then when he was there at Kentucky, he redshirted, and then he transferred to Northwest Mississippi Community College, which is a JUCO, and he played a year there, and now is transferring up to Marshall, back closer to home. The next day, we had a really good day, and this is on the 6th. Defensive line, Bernard B.J. Carter comes to us from Iowa State. Defensive end, Cole Thunderberg comes from Wake Forest, and you said he's going to be bringing the Thunder.
I did not. I did not say that.
What'd you say?
No, I said I will not be saying that.
You heard it here first. KD said, you know how I like to kid with KD. Number 3 on the day, wide receiver Chris Culliver from UNC. This guy is electric when he gets the opportunity. He had in only 15 chances at returns, he had 2 touchdowns. But he also is a home run threat, big speedy guy. I think he was around 6'2". Do you have that up? 6'2"?
I don't. I'm going to tell you I'm working on something while you're talking because I see one that has just come across the wire. So I want to get the measurables for the very end.
Yeah, that's fine. Also that day, linebacker Kelvin McBride comes to us from NC State. And then defensive line Kenyatta Harge from UK. He was a Lexington kid and ended up walking on at Kentucky. And he's a big body as well. So that day we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you got them from Iowa State, Wake Forest, UNC, NC State, and Kentucky. Very good day. The very next day, on the 7th, defensive back Kendall Anderson comes to us from Morgan State. And then offensive lineman Huntington's own Robbie Martin comes to us from WVU. That was big. You know, we wondered about last year if he would come up here, and he ended up going to WVU. And then he got 2 starts up there or 2 games that he played in, and now he's going to be coming to us at coming back home. Then lastly, we got TJ Lester from West Georgia, running back, and he is the brother of 2026 commit Tristan Lester. So reuniting the brothers to come play together.
Yeah, and those guys play on opposite sides of the football. Tristan Lester is a safety that committed to the Herd, and TJ, of course, like you said, is a running back from West Georgia. Had pretty good production numbers as well. And I want to go all the way back to Owen Sweeney, that big 6'4" wide receiver, which is something that we felt like Marshall has needed. And I can't say that this will be like your replacement for Floyd Lacey, but come on, because that guy did everything. But you need a big, tall guy that works the outside, and he had numbers at VMI. And he was really, I can't remember the exact yardage, but it was something like he was 5 yards away from leading the team in receiving yards. But
I've got it.
But he did lead the team in receiving touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken.
With 8 of them. Yeah. So the deal is he was it was 2 guys, and they had very similar yardage, but one had a big game, and the rest were just a lot of like possession type, stats as far as receptions and things like that. And he had drastically less touchdowns. If I had to pick the 2 just based on numbers on the back of a card, I would go with Sweeney on this one, just because he didn't have the receptions and he didn't have the yards. It was still very, very close.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking to see if any of this is like actually out there on like I'm searching Twitter right quick, because I didn't see this latest commit. It's dated for 110, so it must have happened here just today or kind of fairly recently, because I was looking at On3 earlier and I didn't see it. But it looks like On3 is the one that's reporting this as done, committed on 110/2026, and that's offensive lineman from Central Florida, UCF, Jaquez Joyner, listed as a freshman on last year's roster, 6'4", 260. He's an in-state kid from Florida. He went to Cocoa High School in Cocoa, Florida. And if for those of you that know Florida high school ball, that's kind of one of those upper echelon Florida high school football teams. And I'm looking really quickly at his profile on UCF, and really all it has is high school bio stuff. And it says that he helped Cocoa to 3 straight victories in the 2A Florida high school championships. So this is a very, very good team, and he anchored that offensive line to 3 straight victories in the championships. He was a 3-star prospect coming out of high school, and then of course stayed in state and went to UCF. Says down here that he registered 47 pancake blocks in the 2022 season and 146 for his career in high school. Holy moly. This kid is a steamroller. So going heavy on the offensive line, huge additions with Bowsley and, of course, Robbie Martin coming back to Huntington. Going to team up with another one of his former teammates and former WVU players, Zaw Jackson, of course, who we got last year. So the Herd is making some noise here, trying to reload this offensive line. That's 1, 2. What's the other guy? Where's the? Oh, yeah, 3. All 3 of them are Big 12 offensive linemen that are coming to help the Herd. And we'll see how they fit in, obviously, to the rotation. But when you talk about the offensive side of the ball, what really intrigues me is who the running back, who Coach Rod McDowell is targeting for this running back room. And TJ Lester is a guy that performed really well down at West Florida. And then the JUCO. That's what I mean, West Georgia. Yeah. And then the JUCO, Jaquez Key, all these guys going to fight for carries with Joshawn Barbie. And God, dog it, I'm drawing a blank again, and I hate that I'm doing that, damn it, because Quinn. No, is it Quinn? Not Lorcan Quinn. I thought Anthony Quinn. There was a Quinn. Yeah. I knew it was a Quinn. My bad, Anthony. So I expect Anthony Quinn to be in the mix big time this year. So the running back room should be very, very competitive once again. Now let's talk about a couple of guys that are rumored to be out there. We haven't seen anything officially on them yet. It's a duo of defensive backs, both of them teammates, both of them from the MAC out of Buffalo, and that's DB Charles McCarthrans and DB Eddie Pleasant III. So again, trying to put an emphasis on the secondary and put an emphasis on the offense and defensive lines in this portal. So now you're looking at 1-2 Kendall Anderson, DB out of Morgan State, and these two potentially out of Buffalo if those get made official. That's 3 in the first week in the portal. Where does the herd go for week 2? What do you think is going to be the emphasis in week 2?
I think we're going to get a quarterback. Long is out, and I don't know whether to buy into anything, but depending on who you listen to, they're swearing that they're hearing that CDRW might not now come back. I don't get into all the rumors and stuff like that. I don't really care. Once we hear something, we'll know. But even without that, you need a third string quarterback if you have your first two. And if you bring somebody in and he beats out your number 2 and he beats out your number 1, great. That's an amazing problem to have. He's better than what you have. So we're going to have to see that, in my opinion, this next year. I don't think it's going to rest just on the incoming true freshman Dylan Barber that signed in the early signing period. So I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to continue to see the defensive line and the offensive line over the next week. And I would not, I mean, linebackers and D-backs, I think that you're going to see that heavy as well. I mean, that's a lot of areas, but I just see that as being a need.
Well, yeah, I think you have to target a quarterback because you just do. And when you look at the herd roster currently, right now, it reads Zion Turner. Ja'Kai Long has not been removed from the roster currently, but we know he's in the portal. You got CDRW, so you've got your 1 and 2 back right now. Mm-hmm. Still listed as a quarterback on the roster is Coy Fagan, the freshman out of Martinsburg last year. We both have been told that he is switching positions and will not be a quarterback, so that's not one you can count on. And then you got the junior from South Dakota, Jack Cloherty, who came to the herd last year, and then redshirt freshman that was out of Winfield High School, Chase Massey. So it makes sense that you have to go get a guy that fits this type of offense, a true dual threat guy. The CDRW fits it pretty well, obviously. Zion Turner fits it pretty well, obviously. But I don't know how well these other guys will do it. So, there had been some smoke out there that Marshall was targeting a JUCO quarterback, Malachi Marshall. And I saw yesterday that he received an offer from the University of South Carolina. So I feel like that one's probably not going to be on the table anymore. So you're probably going to have to see if you can target another dual threat type quarterback, somebody uber athletic that you feel like can come in and compete with the two guys that are going to be getting the lion's share of the snaps this year at quarterback. And you really need to find somebody to hedge your bets in case at the last minute on January 15th, January 16th, that it comes across and CDRW is portaling out. You just don't want to get caught with your pants down.
Or keep in mind, graduates can transfer at any time. So if those guys have degrees that we're talking about, Zion Turner and CDRW, if they have degrees, they could go anytime after the 16th, and then you're caught even worse because you're much later in the cycle. But let's say that they both stay. Again, rumor, but I never dismiss anything in today's NCAA college football transfer portal world. They both stay. They're both seniors. And then they are guaranteed to be gone next year. And then where does that leave you? You need to have someone here that is ready for next year. Otherwise, you're starting all over again. You've got the incoming redshirt freshman, and then he'll be a freshman next year. And then you've got a couple of guys that, were not on the 3 deep last year. you usually carry 5 to 6 quarterbacks, and those guys that are on the scout team and those guys that are ready to hop up there when injuries occur and things like that, they're important. But right now, you do not have someone that you could point to and say that would be our heir apparent for 2027. So you need to get someone in that is kind of more upper class, ready to go, could step in this year if there are injuries, could step in if there's a transfer situation. You definitely want to get somebody in. So I think that's a high priority for this week.
Yeah, I do too. And while we're talking, another commit has come across the wire, and this one it actually has an official tweet already been signed by the herd. So not only is it official that the player's committing, it's also official that he has been signed. And that is an edge rusher that was taking a visit this week. Keydale Painter from Virginia Union has committed to the herd. So Ralph Street getting some weapons along this defensive line, edge rushers and defensive linemen. I tell you, Russ, we've speculated, will the 3-3-5 make it out and be what the herd runs as a base defense in 2026? And I can't say yes or no right now, but the way they're loading up on defensive linemen, it sure does feel like that they might want to try to put 4 down, and have a heavier rotation. So something to keep an eye on. But today, potentially a big day, potentially 2 DBs, 1 offensive lineman that On3 is reporting. And just now, as I scroll Twitter, Keydale Painter, edge rusher from Virginia Union, has committed and has signed with the herd. So big day, big day. I think to get back on track of what we were talking about, I think looking forward into week 2 here in the portal, I think you're right. I think they have to explore a quarterback. They were doing it this week anyway with the JUCO quarterback that could still commit, but you get that offer from South Carolina and you probably feel pretty good about him wanting to take that. But I still think you explore quarterback. I feel like wide receiver is probably pretty solid right now. I mean, you could take a guy if a guy falls to you, but I don't think you spend too much energy recruiting new players or recruiting anybody you haven't already been talking to this week or in the weeks previous. I think you go heavy on defense, like you're saying. I feel like you're going to have to nab yourself a linebacker or 2, maybe. You're probably going to be looking at a DB or 2. You've still got to find yourself. Now, I will mention this because it's not a portal player. We mentioned this when we tweeted it, but Marshall did secure a commitment from a 5-star kicker / punter out of high school, Cooper Heimbach. And he's going to be an early enrollee, so he can participate in spring ball, I think. So
yeah, he can.
That will be, at least for now, your heir apparent to your Lorcan Quinn, potentially Nathan Totten losses. But the herd has historically carried way more than 1 kicker and 1 punter because you still have to hedge your bets in case of an injury. You still have to potentially have a guy that does all the punting, does all the kicking, and then a third guy that is your kickoff specialist. And last year we carried 3. It was Lorcan Quinn, it was Nathan Totten, and then Ty Powell, a 6-foot, 184-pound freshman that was also a high school recruit. So Marshall has lost out. I don't want to say lost out, but they were courting a portal kicker from Pitt / Murray State. I saw that he committed somewhere else the other day. So right now it's Cooper Heimbach and potentially Ty Powell if he is still on the roster. That may be enough to do the duty, but it just wouldn't surprise me if they go try to find 1 more kicker that's done it at the collegiate level, that has faced that got to have it kick, a live rush at this level, those type of things. But to me, I think you're going to go heavy linebacker and heavy defensive back primarily. Maybe you try to find yourself a wild card in the wide receiving game that is a return type specialist, even though XTB is still on the roster because Culliver is now coming to the herd, guys that have done it. But, it's those kind of wild card things. I don't think you are looking at trying to break new ground in this week. You're trying to solidify guys that you've already been talking to and building a relationship with. And if somebody happens to fall to you that is just a star-studded player that you didn't see coming, then that's just all the better. So any final words on this one before we get out of here?
Yeah, got a lot. I want to talk about Keydell Painter because I've been watching
Okay.
him for a while. I knew he was here on official visits. We've just been waiting, but I've had this keyed up. 6'6", 245 coming off the edge. Reminds me a lot of already someone on the roster with that similar build and size in Braden Ward.
Mm-hmm.
So, you've got some guys here on the edge that I feel like Brad Lambert may want to utilize more as far as rushing and putting pressure on the quarterback. And I like some of the size that we've got there on defensive line already that we brought in for the interior defensive line. So it's looking like Ralph Street is just restocking the cupboard. And I believe in Ralph Street.
Well, it
I
doesn't
believe
it
in Ralph
doesn't
Street.
it feel like it's not that he's restocking the cupboard, it's that he's getting the ingredients that he prefers to have, like not trying to run with a three-man front. Maybe give me enough guys so that I can have my four-man front so that I can really utilize my edge rushers the way I want to. I mean, you can't just draw a line between guys like Mike Green and anybody. Those are generational players, but you see the production that you were able to get out of Mike Green and an opposite edge rusher when you had four down linemen. It was a much different scenario. And if we do in fact go that way, maybe you don't have to go as heavy on the linebacker room.
Yes, but I want to remind everybody from what we said on our season recap show, and I had the stats to back it up and everything. We were top quartile and very high. So for sacks, tackles for loss, and we did well against the run as well. So even in a 3-3-5, Ralph Street's guys along the line did a lot better. I heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, 3-3-5 can't handle the run. It can't handle the run." We were getting beat on the chunk plays in the defensive backs. The defensive line was not the issue. I feel like Ralph Street could put me, you, and a sack of potatoes out there, and he'd probably still have a pretty good productive year. Again, I believe in Ralph Street.
Yeah, I do too.
The other things we've got a lot. I'm not going to list them, but we've got a lot hanging out there that had offers, and I just want to remind people that if you're tracking that sort of thing, that might not be true as of right now. Just because they had an offer 3 weeks ago or a week ago, we have now signed some people, so that might not mean that that offer is still there. So even though there's wide receivers out there, there's quarterbacks out there, there's defensive linemen out there. Well, we have now brought some people in. So just because that offer is out there does not necessarily mean that that is still a potential thing. They may have contacted that person and said, "Hey, we had 2 slots for that room that they've both been filled. So sorry, you should pursue other options that you have."
Right.
Other than that, I think that if you'll allow it, I'm going to share the ThunderCast.Online. I'm just going to put that up on the screen and show everybody, and that'll put us over. Where are we here? Yeah. All right. Can you see that, KD?
Yeah.
All right. Just wanted to make sure. This is the very homepage for ThunderCast.Online. You go down here, the very first article under a nice picture of the Joan. You click on that. If you have not been over there and it has not been updated today, that's what's on the docket afterwards. You can see I'll have the updated date right here. These short paragraphs will tell you about the transfer portal, all that we've been telling you. You've got links here to where you can jump down to the other sections. If you want to go directly to who has portaled out, you click that and it will take you down there. So again, I'll have this updated today, but make sure you go to ThunderCast.Online and make sure that you bookmark that and go there. I'd say it's getting maybe 4 updates a day. We try to keep it real time, but definitely by the end of the evening, 8 o'clock, something like that, you should have a good idea of what has transpired officially through Marshall.
Yeah, there's going to be some things that are probably going to be what you would consider common knowledge that has not just been officially posted, and you won't see that because we just don't want to necessarily take that chance. It's not like we're choosing not to include it or not include it. That's just how we prefer to do things. We wait until we have some legitimate evidence, but it's not to say that it's not accurate. It's just that's how we prefer to do things. So pretty cool, man. We were doing this episode about 40 minutes and we saw two commitments during that 40 minutes. That you can't beat that. But I'm excited for another week of the portal. I know this is very hectic and very worrisome at times for some people, and people have particular prospects that they would love to see commit. And then when those don't happen, they go somewhere else. It's like, oh no, what are we going to do? And so we're trying to keep everybody up to date on what's going on with the herd, who's leaving and who's joining the program. This is going to be a very, very fun week. I imagine we'll see a lot of action because it's the last week to enter. So nobody is safe, right? Anybody can make the decision to enter the portal for another week. And if they're a grad transfer, they can do it anytime. So we'll know a lot more at the end of next week. So we're definitely going to do one more of these shows for you guys to kind of round out the whole thing and at least know who we should see for spring ball. So Russ, with that, if you got nothing else, take us out of here.
Yeah, whether you see us at the vet, whether you see us at the Jack, or whether you see us on ThunderCast.Online, working our knuckles to the bone to try to type this up and get all the latest data out there for you. No matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go herd.
Go herd. It's the ThunderCast. We'll see you next week. Later.